All right, it's on, and I'm just going to try to hold you in focus. Maybe every once in a while drift over and get the background a little, but you can go ahead and.
All right. My name is Charlie Bell. Been 15 years up until coming to Birmingham, living in Memphis. I've been homeless about 1 month out of the 3 that I've been in Birmingham. Aside from that, I love the city. I have an apartment now, courtesy partially of UAB and also a program from HHS. So I'm still on the government tit, so to speak, but I'm trying to establish my own artistic ventures, do some business. Previous when I was working, I was involved in printing, typesetting, graphic arts, advertising, the whole graphic side of print advertising. Used to run printing presses. I used to run them for a so-called cult back in the 70s called the Children of God. So I'm one of their...
What is this? Cult? What'd you call it?
Cult.
Oh, okay.
They were regarded as a cult, but we regarded ourselves, of course, as something very viable.
Okay.
We were the vanguard of the Jesus movement back in the 70s when Jesus appeared on the cover of Time magazine. And
what's happening, man? I'll catch you in just a few minutes.
We thought of ourselves as the vanguard of the Jesus movement because we lived together communally, like the Book of Acts told us, and we memorized Scripture. We went out every day and witnessed to people, Jesus, and fed the homeless occasionally, and printed literature. And we had a leader named Moses David, whose real name was David Brant Berg. His mother was a famous evangelist in Virginia Beach years before. He came to Huntington Beach, California, and established this Children of God with his sons and daughters and a few stragglers, and he ministered to the hippies and the drug outs of Southern California, and eventually it grew to 5,000 people in several countries.
Wow.
And I joined the group January or February of 1970. I left 2.5 years later, a bit disillusioned, but also kind of set free. I left in London on Bastille Day of all things in 1973. Stayed on in London for another year and then moved to Dublin, Ireland for 3 years. I met a good friend named Brendan Mulcair, who I helped him put on Irish music shows in London. He would invite friends over for the weekend that he knew in the music, the traditional Irish music things over to London. And I would do the printing and the posters and help out any way I could. And he filled up a few halls a few times when we would put these music shows on.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and it was rewarding in terms of... Eventually, the Irish music became very popular, and today it's a growth industry.
Yeah.
And very popular around the world, traditional Irish music. Of course, you have the Chieftains, which was been around donkey's years. He brought popular singers over to places, different parts of London, and then I got in some mental trouble, and the authorities. I was at the airport inexplicably to me, as mental as I was, and was arrested and jailed for about 10 or 20 days. I was in the famous Mountjoy jail, which had been around 150 years, very famous prison in downtown Dublin.
What were the circumstances under which you were taken in?
Well, I can talk about it in retrospect because it's 1977.
A random opinion from the street.
Considered opinion. So it happened in 1977. I was charged with being an unauthorized person at the airport, but what it boiled down to, I claimed to have a bomb in a bag.
Okay.
And I told him it would go off when my mind told it to go off. And I hung around the airport for about an hour just looking dazed and confused and disoriented.
Yeah.
They probably had cameras saying, "Look at this idiot."
Well, you were disoriented.
I was.
Yeah.
I was in one of my psychotic
Right,
episodes.
right. You weren't looking at as you were actually a disoriented person.
I was very much in a psychotic episode, schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Because my diagnosis over the years has been schizoaffective.
Yeah.
To define it in one sentence, is a person who, when things, their chemistry is such, or conditions are such, or their depression is such that they veer off into a schizophrenic mode.
Yeah.
Where they not necessarily hear voices, which I rarely heard, but their mind plays tricks on
You
them.
have thoughts
Recreates reality and recreates their situation to have all kind of bizarre outcomes and bizarre contexts.
Situations and
where you believe that you're a person out of the Bible or you're Napoleon,
right,
etc. So I was jailed for 10 days at Mount Joy. Mount Joy was the famous jail where Bernadette Dorn and Bernadette Dorn? It was two famous IRA brothers, Eddie and his brother, had their girlfriends hire a helicopter and swoop them out of the exercise yard of Mount Joy Jail. They escaped that way. It was one of the most remarkable things of the 70s in Ireland, at least. I'm sure it made international headlines. And then months later, at the time that Generalissimo Franco was dying, it took him weeks to die, or so it seemed, and at the same time, Eddie and his brother were holed up in a bungalow in Wicklow or some other part of Ireland, and they were surrounded by the police. And we used to make books or make bets about which would happen first. Would Eddie and his brother and his girlfriend get arrested or taken into custody, or would General Franco finally die? And I think General Franco finally succumbed. I don't know who won the bet.
You don't remember which side you were on?
I was on the side of I hope he dies eventually, because he was quite the dictator of Spain. And those were some pleasant times in my life, aside from the mental illness, aside from my first being diagnosed as manic depressive or schizoaffective. And there was a lot of good times sitting in the pubs. That was an aspect of my mental illness, heavy drinking.
Yeah.
Or
is it a coping mechanism?
It's a mechanism to cope with. It's a mechanism to keep the madness at bay.
Yeah.
And it's also cultural.
To dull it somewhat anyway, right?
Suppress it or suppress the thoughts or suppress the madness.
Right.
And it also becomes a lifestyle, not only in Ireland, but here in America.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb thing, you know. Daily drinking, they call it. And we would go at lunchtime to the pub, have a couple pints of Guinness.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, especially on the weekend, we would again go to a pub or a different pub and have 3, 4, 5 pints of Guinness. And they used to have an advertising campaign in the 40s or 50s. Guinness is good for you. That was their slogan. And
maybe one a day.
One a day wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
There is a lot of moisture, a lot of nutrients in it.
Sure.
It's like liquid bread to some people.
Sure.
To some cultures.
It's a good beer too.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I got to drink it right at the source of the pub that sits the closest to St. James Gate.
Do you know that the company Guinness has a 9,000-year lease on that piece of land?
Good luck.
Good luck.
I can keep it.
Let me stop this because it's going to, I'm going to turn it back on, but I need to take a break.
All right.
All right, because it's going to cut off at 10 minutes.
All right.